Hey everybody, you know what I just discovered? They took our edit they took our edit button away from on Facebook.
Really?
I just discovered it. I know we lied, but I just have to say this. They took the button away. All right, Facebook. Y'all, we gonna fight with Facebook because they can't do that. Hey everybody, this is Pastor Barbara, or excuse me, just Barbara Bankston tonight, because I am talking to Q Morgan, the I don't know, the famous, because it's not infamous, the
Oh
famous
my
Q.
gosh.
Right. Infamous mean, yeah. So the famous, amazing Q Morgan tonight. We are super, super excited about this conversation that we're getting ready to have. I'll just share really quickly about we're unmasking men and trauma in the man. And I have some questions me and Q haven't discussed. So this is Q got his own points he trying to bring out, and I got my questions we trying to bring out, and we're gonna see if God gonna allow this thing to coexist
Yeah.
tonight. So I have been doing unmasking segments, and this month I have focused in on trauma because just after releasing my book, Q, there were so many people who were just trauma was just over. It was like the dominant factor in their lives. And so I just found it. I said, let me just do a segment on trauma and just kind of. So the first week we did trauma with the family and with children, and
Wow.
then we did trauma in women, and then we did trauma in the body, and tonight we're doing trauma in the man. um this is important. And so before I get deep into it, because I already got my first question, I don't know if I should lead with that question. That was going,
What's
it's,
up?
yeah, we're gonna lead with it. But before I do that, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, let me say we do call you Pastor Barbara, so stop playing with me.
Yes.
That's how we
Yes.
address you. But no, definitely let me say it's an honor to be on this platform and to be talking about something that's so near and dear to my heart, and that's watching men heal. A little bit about me, man, accepted my call into ministry in 2010, been walking with God ever since. He one of the best decisions I've ever made. Aside from that, I've done event hosting, been in over 45 events, partnered with companies and brands like Bank of America, General Motors, Consumers Energy. Also, stepped into the journey of becoming a mental health advocate. Now, what's an advocate? An advocate is a person that stands in the gap between the therapist and those needing therapy. And I just advocate to let you know that it's okay to make that decision and go and talk to someone.
Mhm.
And aside from being an advocate, stepped into a lane that I've enjoyed so far, and that's just podcasting with my podcast called Modern Healing, where I explore the different narratives of healing from different facets. And so it's
Mhm.
been a journey, but what I love is that growth has to be intentional in order for it to happen. And so it's been incredible to see the intentionality of my growth process and just kind of how I landed here.
You know what? I have actually enjoyed watching you grow, right? Like, so I'm a true witness to that growth and just seeing you broken. I've seen you broken.
Mm.
So to be able to see you now, and even though I know you're a little ways away, it does my soul really good. I'd be
Wow.
like, come through. I love to hear it, to see it. I kind of
Yeah.
follow you. So I might get on a podcast or watch you on some lives or whatever you're doing. I kind of follow it. And I absolutely love it, Q, because you are if you know your story, then you can appreciate the space.
100%.
Yes, you can appreciate the space that you're
Yes.
currently in, right? And so, and until you know somebody, and one of the things that I really love about you is that you're not afraid. And we're gonna get into we're gonna unwrap this whole thing. But one of the things that I really loved about watching you is that you were never, it felt like you were never afraid or shamed to tell your story, even
Yeah.
when you were in it. So even that vulnerable space, see, some people only want to tell and share when they come out of it, and
Yeah.
nobody get to see them while they're in it. And so sometimes it becomes, were they really in it? Like, are they just
Exactly.
trying to tell us, you know what I'm saying? But when you can literally see somebody in a broken space and then you get to see the manifestation of the healed version, you can say that was God, right? And you could tell that they were in the presence of God and they were able to walk with God and they were able to navigate that thing out with Holy Spirit. And I can say that I did see that in you. So I am very, very proud of you, proud of the steps that
Um,
you've been making and the things that you're doing and what life is getting ready to offer you. I am excited about it.
you're trying to
So when
preach. You're trying to preach. You're trying to preach.
I'm not preaching. We don't preach on here. So, one of the things that I want to tell everyone is please, when you come on, say hi to us. If you have questions for Q or myself, please add them in the comments. Share this broadcast. We will dialogue with you. We will come back if we have to after, if you are watching it on the repost or later on a rebroadcast, it's okay. We will come back. We will look at it. If I see something for Q, I'll let him know. Hey Q, you got some questions on there. So we want to answer many of your questions as we possibly can. So you ready? Because we
I'm
about to
ready.
dig in. We about to dig in. We digging in. We
Let's
digging
get
in. And what we gonna dig in to first is so when you think of trauma in men, before I dig into my question, what do you first, as a man, what are your first thoughts when you're dealing with trauma in men?
I think my first thoughts pertaining to trauma in men is men deal with trauma differently. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we try to categorize trauma as being this specific sex thing, when in reality it's handled in two total different ways. I think when it comes to trauma in men, we often see this ugly thing I like to call anger. And it comes out in so
Mm-hmm.
many different ways, right? He's angry at home, he's angry on his job, when he walks through his community, he's angry. And that anger spills over to his children. And then you wonder why they're, that next generation starts to become angry themselves. But I think number one, trauma in men looks like anger. The next thing it looks like is isolation, right? Men often
Mm-hmm.
run and hide before they embrace and lay it on the table. Now, women will share all day long about everything they want to share about, but men we tend to isolate ourselves. So trauma in men, number one, it looks like anger, it looks like isolation, and then I think three, it looks like stress. And stress is
Mm-hmm.
pretty interesting because sometimes people can be stressed out but still look good. You know what I mean? And I had to learn
Oh
that. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
just because someone looks the part doesn't mean they ain't
Mm-hmm.
going through stuff. And so I think for a lot of men, they say that we carry stress close to our hearts. That's why most men die of heart attacks, because of the level of stress that we put on ourselves, and we carry it all in our chest. And it's crazy because I think when you look at men who deal with trauma, you can see these three different things in some type of ways. He's either
Mm-hmm.
being angry, he's isolating himself, or he's carrying stress so close to his chest that it's affecting everything around him.
That's good. I love how you brought out what it looks like. Where do you think the primary trauma comes from? So we know what it looks like. So where do you think that it primarily comes from?
I think you are good. You are so good.
I got another question, but I got to lead up to that
Yeah,
question.
I know. I feel you, dancing. I feel you. I think trauma is two things. It's either situational or it's chronic, right? Either it's from something that you've experienced, situational, maybe a car accident, a murder, right? Or it's something that's chronic, like, sexual abuse or physical abuse. I
Mhm.
think that either it stemmed from either your environment or something, that you encountered. And most men have done a lot of encountering. It's crazy the amount of things that I'm specifically talking to black men that black men carry in this country, from racial discrimination to constantly being ridiculed and put down and beat down to, all men are dogs mentality attached to black men. But honestly, I think it's time to heal black men. And as Tupac said,
Right.
be real. Like we have to be real and be honest. And it's sad because most men do deal with things situationally. Homeboy got killed, such and such got murdered, such and such, this happened, that happened. And then when it's a chronic situation, a lot of men have been sexually abused. A lot of men have been physically abused by father figures and etc. And
Mhm.
so I think it's either situational or it's chronic when it comes to trauma concerning a lot of men.
That's good. One of the things that I do want us to unwrap is because I had made up my mind. I know I'm going to be here. I'm going to try to be a good advocate for, I said, as long as Q cooperates, I'm going to be a good advocate for the men tonight.
Gotcha. Okay.
But if Q try to come for me as a woman and the rest of my women try, I'm coming back strong.
No, I ain't doing that. I promise I'm not.
But I do want to say this because I do believe that just in talking, my personal talking to men, right? I think that this is something that we sweep over.
Wow. Okay.
What I'm about to ask, I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but I would love for us to kind of unwrap this together. Um, the trauma of a man by the hands of a woman.
Mm, yeah. We got some work to do tonight. I'm excited. I thank all of you for tuning in. I'm so glad you
Because I
at
think
the table.
I'm
Yeah.
saying this because we always talk about the woman getting so trauma, the men hurting us and breaking us and destroying us as women. But we forget that we as women, we destroy, we break, and
Yeah.
we can tear down the man, right? And so I want us to kind of unwrap that because how I would handle, like you said, we handle as women, we might handle that different. We have a
Yeah.
tribe. We literally have a tribe, right?
Yep.
I have multiple people that I can go to. I have people that will, I ain't gonna say that. I was gonna say people that'll take bodies.
Right. You
So,
see.
but literally I have people that will fight, right? And then I have people who will stop me. I have people that will provoke me, but
Yeah.
I have a tribe of women who will also heal me.
Yeah.
And so I know that we as women can sometimes do things to hurt, destroy,
Yeah.
annihilate a
Yeah.
man. And when we come for him, we will tear him. We are very intentional. And I understand this. And so I don't know if I'm giving up girl code too much of it, but we will intend because we understand at that point of us returning that pain, it's usually because we've experienced pain in the past or
Mhm.
we've experienced pain in this current situation. And
Yeah.
therefore now I'm going to traumatize. I'm going to let you feel what I feel. Right. And so let's unwrap this a little bit, like
Yeah.
trauma by the hands of a woman.
I think it's an interesting conversation. And let me say, anyone who's in the chat tonight, feel free. We talking tonight. That's all this is.
Yeah, we just
But
talking. So talk to us.
talk back to me. But I think it's pretty interesting because you said something that we've found to be consistent throughout years, and that's that hurt people, and heal people, right? And every time I've been dropped by a woman, I realized that she had first been dropped by a man. So she was projecting what she had already received, right? And I always say the first woman to ever drop me was my mother. Now, I love my mother, but
Absolutely.
ultimately she dropped me, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
know you're like, well, Q, how? Well, my mother actually walked away from me when she was younger and pregnant with me. So she gave birth to me and decided I can't do this, and she walked away. But what I didn't know was that there was someone in her life that she loved that walked away from her. And so this generational thing of walking away became accepted, and she thought it was the way to go and the thing to do. And the next time I had been dropped by a woman, it was by a woman that I loved and wanted to be with at that particular time. And it was crazy because I realized that the way she hurt me was actually how she had been hurt. And so, no, I'm not giving any like specific, byway or leeway to any woman. I don't think any woman should drop a man, speak badly to a man, put a man down, ridicule a man like some of y'all do. But then you wonder why you can't keep a man. But at the end of the day, I do think it's very imperative and important that women, especially black women, can I be specific, that black women pour into black men. Not all black men are dogs. Some of us are striving. Some of us are trying
Right.
to break and unlearn and let go. Some of us are trying to heal in areas we've never healed before, and we need a little bit more grace. You can't expect us to be perfect all the time because we are not Superman. But at the end of the day, what we do need is a woman who will stand by our side and say, I'll push you through it. Because if I'm paying
Right.
the bills and I'm having your back and I'm supporting you and your hair and nails is done and you eating good, you got steak, shrimp, and lobster, right? If I'm doing all of that, the least you can do is support me mentally and emotionally. I'm not even talking about sex. I'm talking about mentally and emotionally. You know what I mean? And so it is sad when I hear women degrading me. especially because in the
Right.
black community, there's very few good men, right? And so then you try to degrade the one you got, but then still want him to
Right.
fly high. That's not how this thing works. And I think we as a community have to start loving each other better.
I so agree. I so agree. Today I was having a conversation, and in my conversation, I was saying the very thing that you just said. Um, I was saying that we as a I was reading the comments. Someone,
Uh,
oh, Lynette, my cousin Lynette said, I agree, Pastor Q, too young to be on point. God bless your ministry.
I love you.
My mom said help is on the way. But I was having this conversation, and I was sharing with them that everything that a woman does to a man,
Yeah.
she learned from a man.
Oh, for sure.
So either she learned it by way of her father, whether he was
Mhm.
there or absent. So she
Mhm.
learned that was probably her first point. And for me, very specifically, I had two older brothers. So I watched them game women all day
Mm.
long, all growing up. I'm the youngest. So I watched them from a young girl and how they navigated with these
Yeah.
young girls. And back then they didn't have cell phones. So I answered the house phone for 5 different girls for the same one. So I
Yeah.
know no, he not here. No, he not
Right.
talking to you. No, right? I was regulating being the little sister. So, but I learned that game. And then once I started dating, I could easily recognize that. And then once I became hurt, then it became a shield. So I said that, we get these shields. We start building these walls, we build these shields, and we keep building and we keep building and it's like a wound. Like you have a fractured wound and you don't know that it's really broken.
No.
And so you think that because it's you don't feel that level of pain, you walk around on it, and then when you get older, they go back and you re-injure it, and they say it was broken once upon a time and it didn't heal correctly. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens to us is we don't heal correctly from that young age. And so that kind of transcends into our older age, and then we become we it's like Lynette also put in there the R. Kelly incident. We become what they became to us. We do
Exactly.
what they did to us,
Yep.
even if we don't try to do it intentionally. That's why it's very, very, very important to heal. It is very, very important to heal.
It's crazy that you
Um,
mentioned that because, I learned recently that just like things like diabetes and heart disease and cancer is passed down genetically, so is things like trauma and oppression and depression and stress. And you have to be very intentional. And let me say to every woman that's been dropped by a man, you'll probably never receive a sorry, but let me say on behalf of all men, we are sorry that we dropped you. I'm sorry daddy dropped you. I'm sorry that that man that you love dropped you. But guess what? You can't give up on all men just based off one man, right? Because we're all not the same. I'm just talking, ladies. Y'all talk to me in the chat, but I'm just saying, all men are
that's
not
good. And we thank you for your apology. Because sometimes that's all somebody needs to hear, really. And the
yeah,
truth is, I'm sorry that you got hurt. I'm sorry that that happened to you, right? And
yeah,
so that is, I thank you for just doing that. Um, so yeah, it's important that we heal through those places of trauma when we're being traumatized by the man. But when a woman, I would love for us to talk just a little bit deeper because I think I love how you brought out your mom. It started with your mom and how share with us how that potentially could have shaped other your relationships with a woman, like when you started dating and
yeah,
the things that you were looking for or the things that you were rejecting potentially. You could, because we try so hard to not get somebody like our mama, then we end up with somebody just like our mama. Or you try to get somebody just that's not like your daddy, and then you end up with somebody just, you know what I'm saying? Because you're
yeah,
either going to try to gravitate to it or you're going to reject it, right? So
yeah.
share a little bit about that from that maternal perspective.
Yeah, no, that is, man. And I'll call you mom because you're like one of my moms too. And it's crazy because I suffered with abandonment issues. I thought that every time I got close and it got too deep, that maybe I should cut it off to protect myself from losing it. And so I would date
Wow.
women and be really involved. And then the moment it started to go too deep, I would cut loose because it's all good when it's surfaced because I don't have to worry about you leaving because I'm really attached. But the moment I get too attached to you, well, now it's getting dangerous because you could leave me and that could hurt me. And so I'm going to leave you before you leave me. And I was the one that, oh, no, 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 like I'm gonna break up with you before you break up with me, because honestly, it all boiled down to abandonment issues. And I think, for someone who
That
is,
was so good.
I'm just saying, like for someone who has grown up, man, and really experienced that mother wound or that father wound, that thing can run real deep. And even to this day, I've had to, make sure I catch myself and being like, I can't expect this woman to be my mother. She's not my mother. At the end of the day, she's my woman, right? Because a lot of men do get women and they have this expectation that she's supposed to be mama. No, she's not supposed to be mama. Like, you know what I mean? That's not her role in your life. And I was like, man, I'm dealing with abandonment issues. I'm dealing with expectations on people who don't even deserve this level of expectation because that's not their role. And I had to really get into perspective with understanding, like, man, just because this happened to me doesn't mean I have to carry this in every situation I go into. I can leave this thing at the door and start loving people correctly.
That is so, so, so good. I think a lot of men deal with abandonment issues and they don't know how, since we're there, they don't know how to come from that place of abandonment. And the reason why I say that, because I wrote a book. It's called Unmasking: A Journey to Wholeness. And through the book, I unmasked several areas. There was an area that I did not unmask in the book, but I did I did write about it in the journal, because I did a journal as well, a companion journal. And it was unmasking loneliness. And that was probably the number one question that men ask me, not women, that men ask me, Q, about
Yeah.
how do you, they said, did you talk about unmasking loneliness while you're in a relationship or while you're married? I was baffled because that's something that I would think as women that would be magnified in us, right? Because that's that
Yeah.
whole emotional thing and just feeling lonely in this space. But then I had to really begin to start reflecting on what that looks like for a man. And I know you've never been married, but I do want us to talk. Have you ever been married?
No, I haven't.
I
I haven't. So you were right in the spirit. Don't worry about it.
So, but I know that, because this isn't a question for just when you're married, because some of us stay in relationships a long time and we find ourselves being lonely inside of the belly of the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I would like for you, to just speak to that, and what that looks like, or just speak to that place of loneliness, because it ties into abandonment, right? Because what is really happening is you're feeling abandoned and lonely while married in the relationship. Now, I
Yeah.
do know that I have answers for some of it and what happens in a relationship, but I want us to specifically speak to that place.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I said earlier that the men deal with trauma a lot different than women. And when it comes to trauma, right, and the specific thing called loneliness, I think a lot of men at some point encounter it. Like there's certain things that you just can't avoid. You have to learn how to deal with and cope with. But when it comes to loneliness, they often say that a man leaves a situation way before his body ever does, meaning that he can be in it and be out of it, but still go with the motions of things. But I think it's a dangerous thing when a man gets lonely because they always say that men aren't good alone. That men need
Mhm.
to, I'm just saying, men need to be in the company because that's how we protect and grow and heal and evolve. But when it comes to loneliness in a relationship, it's dark for a lot of men. It's dark to come home and not feel embraced. It's dark to come home and not feel love. It's dark to come home and not be grabbed and fully asked about how you feel or your emotions. And even though most men will say, I'm good, I don't want to talk about it, but at the end of the day, every man wants to talk because there's something on the inside of us that's hurting us in some capacity. And when it comes to loneliness, I think that we as men have to start learning to embrace those moments. So
Mhm.
often we run away from the thing that actually we should be conquering and embracing. And when it comes to loneliness, I think we need to be specific with why we feel lonely and what is it, right? We've got to strategically attack this thing so we know how to kill it so that when we shoot, we don't miss. But I think we've got to figure out why we're lonely, what's causing us to be lonely, and then ultimately have conversations with the women in our lives and be honest with them about the place that we're in. Like we'll be in situations and then act like everything is good until everything falls apart, and then say, "I don't know what happened, man." Like we've got to be more open and honest about what we experience and when we
Mhm.
experience it. And it's sad because like Men cover up and they mask so well that sometimes women won't even notice unless they ask.
Right. And
And
so
I
I
wish,
think that's, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, I wish more women, and let me say this to you: if you have a black man in your life, I encourage you to start talking to him more, asking
Mhm.
him open questions about how he feels and what's going on in his world. But I wish women would start asking men more, how do you feel and how can I help you?
I love that. I appreciate that because I do think that that is something that we drop. We come to, as I know for me, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of women, it maybe not all, but there are a lot of women who are potentially like me. I'm a fixer. I'm a nurturer. I'm a fixer.
Mm,
I'm going straight for the solution. And sometimes that could not be kind, right? Like I could be
yeah.
like the man. I definitely could be like the man. There's times
Mm,
when I'll have compassion and I won't have compassion because as soon as you give me the problem, I'm going straight for the solution, right? And so I might not have compassion through the journey to get to the solution because all
wow.
I'm worried about is getting to the fix. Let's fix it.
Mm.
Like we
You
don't
know,
have to cry, and but sometimes I'm just being honest, like
no,
right.
You're talking so good, and it's crazy because when me and my girlfriend first started dating, and I love Brooke, she's the pride of my heart and joy. But when we first started dating, she said to me, "I don't know how to fix you." I said, "Wait, what?" She was like, "I'm used to fixing men in a certain way, and the areas that like I typically fix, you're already healed and together there. So I don't know how
Mhm.
to fix you." And it was in that moment I realized that, dang, do most women take on projects?
It's
Like,
not that. No, it's not that we're taking on projects. Q. I just think that most men are projects, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
what? Wow.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. Listen to me, but listen,
Okay,
Q.
come
Listen
on.
to what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean that they're broken. They've gone through years of no one listening to them.
yeah,
Their voice, if it isn't about the money, the finances, the bills, then their voice is not cared for. Like nobody
yeah,
wants to hear their voice. They don't have input in some areas. Women just dominate in some of it. Sometimes they surrender it, sometimes we take it, right? So some of it
yeah,
isn't. So it's either or. And so I think that they don't know how to decompress. They don't know how to take time to heal. And so
yeah,
most of the time when a woman gets a man, he can be a great amazing man, but unless he's done the work, see, the difference is you had did the work. And so
yeah,
she's used to dealing with men who are really picking up baggage and heavy weights from other relationships, from their life, from their parents, from growing up, from siblings, where they are in the sibling line, what their responsibility was, all this stuff. And then she got to deal with him. He the baby, he been enabled, he's spoiled, you know what I'm saying? He can't do nothing for himself.
yeah,
I'm just I'm being honest. If he's been through a couple relationships, he's been hurt. He's dogged out women, and now he's older, and he's trying to get. It's just so many things. And so when I
yeah.
say that, I'm laughing about it, but I'm serious that most of them are broken because they haven't done the work, and I think they haven't done the work because they don't know how. They
Wow.
don't think that their voices are important. They don't think that we're going to listen. Or sometimes they're listening, just like I said, they might be listening. I'm already looking for the solution. So I'm really not listening because as soon as you say you got the problem, my mind is so that I'm looking for the solution that I have had to make myself stop and
Yeah,
listen.
yeah,
And literally just, Barbara, you got to listen. You don't, everything isn't for you to fix. Even I had to learn that everything is not for you to fix, Barbara. So sometimes you just got to sit and be
yeah.
quiet
Wow.
and navigate with them and not for them. So
You know,
that's why I said that. I wasn't meaning that in a bad way. I'm
no,
just
I got
saying,
you. No, I agree. I agree. I think that we do have a lot of men in our community that have been broken, that have been dropped, that have been hurt, that have had to step in the roles because there's this thing called the man rule, right? And men don't cry. Men don't show that we're weak. We don't ask for help. We don't show emotion. We're always brave, right? That's the man rule. That's who we've been told we have to be. But what happens when all hell hits the fan, right? We spiral out of control, and then we go down this ever-ending path of spiraling and becoming things that we didn't even imagine we were becoming. You can't fault us for that. We were dropped, and some men need more grace. it's hard being now. It is hard being a black woman in America, but it's hard being a black man in
I
America.
agree.
But I agree. The day of projects are over. I see y'all in the chat. I'm watching y'all. Boot camp is closed. The day of projects is over. I agree. Nobody. We no longer have the capacity to be fixing anything. I needed to come halfway here, all halfway together. All I gotta do is tighten up some screws. You feel me? I agree. But at the end of the day, we also have to show more grace. Do you know that 25% of African American men commit suicide?
That's
25% take their lives because they don't feel supported, they don't feel love, and they don't feel connected. So imagine if a woman was pouring into that 25%, reminding that man that you got it. You can do it. You can make it happen. I know daddy wasn't there. I know mama walked away. I know you had to sell drugs for a season. I know you had to sleep in your cousin's basement, but you can make it and you can do it. We got to start pouring into men, especially the
we have
ones
to.
we see with good character.
I agree. I agree. That grace is that grace, being able to give grace and stop pushing them further in the corner. Like it's like we
Yeah,
push them, and we do it because women are our word. We know that our words are powerful. So we know how, if I can't hurt, I might not be able to take you down physically, but when I get done with this, I'm gonna take you out the game.
yeah, y'all good with that.
And so sometimes we push men into a further into a corner. And so
Yeah,
we do have to learn to give grace and not judgment. Like,
yeah,
part of the reason, like, I believe people don't share their past. I was on a show the other day and we were talking about vulnerabilities within relationships. And I think a part of the reason that men don't share, a woman is faster to share her past. Like, no
sure.
shame, no game. Once I'm healed, I'm over it, right?
Right.
Whereas a man is a little more reluctant to share his past because that is going to expose his vulnerability. It
Mm,
potentially could expose a weakness, right? Because now he's sharing, and he does not want you to use that which you have just gained in conversation as a weapon
yeah.
against him for moving forward. And so I think it's important that we allow that space for men to be vulnerable.
And I do too. I think, when it comes to the man and the woman relationship, I don't think the woman's job is to heal the man. I think the woman's job is to help him heal. I think men need men to heal. Like, it's just what it is, right? Your job is to
Mhm.
help him heal, to help foster that. But I think a lot of men need men to heal. Like, we need other men coming alongside us. It's crazy. I'll never forget. I was going through a grief and a breakup, and it was tough. I remember Pastor Dana's on here. I remember talking to her about it, and I was like, man, I just don't know what to do. And I never forget one of my mentors, Bishop Greg Davis. He hugged me one time. And when he hugged me, it's like everything in me just broke and I just cried because I had never been embraced by a man in that type of
My
way.
God.
And I was like, man, I realized in that moment that if more men came together and we created more support groups and we rallied around one another, the work that could be done in our community to change black men and their perspectives would be iconic, because at the end of the day, we can't change the way men are, but we can change the way they think, right? And if we change their thinking pattern and their thinking process, I think then they'll begin to realize that vulnerability ain't being weak, vulnerability ain't being a punk, vulnerability ain't being, a sissy, vulnerability aren't any of these things. Vulnerability is actually the key to fostering growth. It's actually the key to becoming better. The more you can be vulnerable and honest with where you are, the more you can face your reality and stop trying to mask it and pretend like it's not there. Whatever happened, happened. And it's crazy because I remember being in therapy and the lady said to me, you have to imagine that everything in your life is like a jar of dirty rocks. She said, all the dirt and filth, it's a jar of dirty rocks. She said, and you have to imagine that being in the right circle, being in the right rooms with people who want to see you do better, investing in your personal growth with things like therapy and working out and all of that. She said, you have to imagine that those things are like clean water. She said, when you take that clean water and you pour it into that jar of dirty rocks, what's going to happen? I said, I don't know. She said, well, the residue of those dirty rocks is going to begin to wash away. She said the dirt and the filth will eventually just wash off because of all the clean water you're pouring into it. She said, now the rocks will remain. And we've got to realize that some things in our lives are never going to go anywhere. They already happened. I'm
That's
talking to
good.
men right now, right? They already happened. They already left you. They already broke your heart. They already lied, right? Women cheat too, right? Like they already do all these things. I'm just saying, right? Black men don't cheat, but women cheat. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Right? All these things have happened, man. They're not going to go anywhere. But how you respond and how you act and how you move forward
Mhm.
is upon you. And I refuse, man. I refuse to allow things that I didn't deal with to go into my children's lives, right? If I can heal it and kill it now, let me heal it and kill it now so that my children don't have to fight the demons I should have slain. Healing
Right.
has to be intentional.
That you're so right, because earlier we were talking about how some things, our trauma is passed down generationally, right? And
Yeah.
so there's things, even I can say for me, I have kids, and there's things that my children will do that they've never seen me do. It's
Wow.
not a learned behavior,
Wow.
but it's an inherited behavior because I
Exactly.
know what I did before I came to Jesus.
Yeah.
I
100%.
know what I did in my youth. I know how I acted. I know, but these aren't things that they know because they weren't living. And so we do have to be so mindful to go back into those spaces and those times. And we have to begin to sever and cut down those things so we don't keep passing them. And when we recognize them in our children, we got to go in because we don't want to keep passing them to the next generation, because that's how that cycle. I got a shirt on that says break the cycle. So that's how that cycle keeps going. That cycle keeps going because no one wants to stop and be the cycle breaker. No one wants to be say enough is enough. It stops here, and so we have to do that as we begin to recognize these cycles that are going on, especially in our children. So I really I like that.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what they're saying in here.
I see them running their mouth. What they talking about? Heal it and kill it. I love it. Look at
A
my sister
woman should
Brittany.
only be the voice of God in a man's ear. God has to restore him and develop his confidence to reach and strengthen his core. Then he will begin to believe in himself. I agree
Yeah.
that be the voice of God in a man's ear. I do believe that God, again, I love that you use that analogy that a woman cannot heal a man, but she can help to heal him,
For
right? But
sure.
he needs another man. So what do you say to that? Because I can say this, I will share this. When I was younger, and I remember, and I'm not sure what the world is like now because it's not a space that I have had to operate in. This isn't a space that I've had to operate in now. But when I was younger and I had went through a divorce, I was looking for mentorship for my sons. I
Mm,
could not find one nowhere.
wow.
I went to people personally, and I could not get a man to stand up and say they would help me. I didn't need you to be my man. I didn't need you to pay for no money. I just needed you
Yeah.
to be a man in their life. And so it amazes me because you said a man needs to heal a man, right? So there
Yeah.
needs to be men that are willing to step into that space like Bishop Davis was for you in that moment.
Yeah.
There need to be more men that are willing to step into that space and say, I see you. Because
Yeah.
they really just want somebody to see them and identify that this pain, and when it comes from a man, they know that that man can understand. Not only do they see it, but they understand the pain. And
Yeah.
so I was not able to find a man nowhere, and I went to a lot of men because I knew
Wow.
one of my sons very particularly needed that. So
Yeah.
what do you say to that? Because as men, it's what's needed, but are we able to give, if what a man need to come from a man and not from a woman, but women are the ones that will fix you.
Yeah.
The women are the ones that will nurture you. The women are the ones who will pray and lay prostrate for you. The women are the ones who are going to do that real work that you need, but you really need a man. So it's almost like everything that a woman does, not that it's for nothing, but really it's like taking an aspirin when you need extra strength Tylenol.
Yeah. 100%.
Or taking some cold medicine when you need allergy medicine. I mean,
Yeah.
you got medicine, but it ain't the medicine that's gonna cure it, right? And so
Yeah.
let's talk to that.
No, that's definitely good. And let me say, I'm sorry that no man stepped up, and I've learned to apologize because I realize that some people will never hear that, and so if I can be a voice for that, then that's what I'm going to be. But it's crazy because you're absolutely right. Like there's not enough black men in this space to say I will stand in the gap and mentor your son into a place of healing and growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that requires more of them. And most men just want to do the bare minimum. They don't want to do what's required. And so, what I do love though in this space is what people don't know is that there are groups all around the world that are forming because of this issue. They realize that there's not enough men to stand in the gap and stand in this space, and so there's things like, the Good Man Project, which is you can find online. Look up the Good Man Project, and they are specifically like aligning black men and young boys, right? And even in my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, right? We're being I know, right? We're being intentional with making sure that we foster those relationships as well. And so I think that we as advocates and people of healing have to do a better job of communicating resources. Because to a woman who is trying to find a mentor, right, in her community, like how can she do so, especially if no man will step up? If no man will step up. And so what we have to realize is that there are resources out there. They may be, now we're living in this new day and age where it's virtual, right? I've got people that are my mentors that live in California, and I live in Texas. And I got people in Detroit I talk to, and people in, what I mean, all over the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so now this new way of healing might look a little different, right? You might have to reach out to somebody via social media and say, hey, here's what I need. My son needs someone in his life that he can just talk to and connect with, and whether that's in person or virtual, I think you're the person for the job. Like, will you commit to 6 months? It's because,
That's
and
good.
I
I
think a
love
lot of,
that. Let's right.
yeah, I think a lot of people just we need to reach out.
That's good. I had someone asked a question. It
Okay.
says, how do men find that tribe of God fearing men? Like if you're already a man. So we were talking about from the place of a child, right? But
Yeah.
men, I have dealt with men who have said, they come to the church, but when a man step into the church, he ready for God for real, right?
Yeah,
So
for
he don't
sure.
want to he ain't trying to play with no other men that's playing with God. He
Mhm.
already fighting his own demons. He can't get into
Yeah.
church and see you got the demons worse than he got, because then he just gonna walk away because he's
Yep.
gonna say, I mean, I know this is the conversations I've had with men. They like, if
Yeah.
if I got a woman problem and I'm coming to the house of the Lord to help God deal with me, to help
Yeah.
me get, and I'm trying to put myself around people who can help me walk out this thing. But when I come into the house of God, they got the same problems that I got. Then ain't no sense in me coming into the house of God, because y'all not
Yeah.
gonna help. Y'all can't help me, right?
Yeah.
Because your demons is worse than my demons. So the question is, how do men find the tribe of God fearing men? They went on to say, it was Brittany. She said, I know some men that struggle to find a community of upstanding men that are doing the work to heal and grow. So even in places where you get people who are intentional, because I think, again, in my opinion, just from talking to men, it's not so much that men don't want to heal, they don't know how to, and they
Yeah.
don't know safe spaces to do that without feeling like they're going to be ridiculed.
Yeah.
So what do you say to that?
That's a good question. And let me say, Brittany, I love you, sis. I think you got to vet and you got to inspect, right? At the end of the day, when you go in any house, it's like you go in any restaurant, you got to look around and you got to vet the room and say, okay, is the ambiance good? Does it seem quality? Does it seem high scale, right? Sometimes we jump in relationships and think just because he rocking J's and I'm rocking J's that we friends. No, that's not how this works. So first you got to vet, right? Men can't be afraid to just vet the room. Go and introduce yourself and say, hey, what's up, bro? Like, just want to link with you, see if you cool. Vet people, man. Like, I'm not jumping into nothing without vetting it. And then you got to inspect it, right? And sometimes inspection requires a little more extra time, right? You got to be like, all right, let me see how this person is outside of this environment. Right when we get
Mm-hmm.
out, is they turning up and trying to drink and be wild and lying and cheating and talking about their wife behind it. You know what I mean? I gotta inspect this thing. So I think for men, finding a tribe is a process because it ain't like finding, for women, it's a little different. Y'all can be like, hey, girl, you can turn nails doing over here. That's what's that we going. That like it's a lot different. But with men, we got to vet and we got to inspect. And I think each man needs to make that a priority when trying to find a tribe. And I think then eventually you'll find it. You're not going to stumble into it. And if you and it's not the first person you see, I promise you. That person is probably a whoremonger themselves. Be intentional about the relationships you connect with. Because what you don't want to do is connect with somebody who can bring you lower than where you already are. So
My
vet and inspect, and then you'll be able to find your tribe and be intentional about the people that you're around.
That was so good, Q. You don't want to you don't want to be with nobody that's going to bring you lower than where you already
Then you
are.
already
My
are.
God. But we do that.
Yes,
I do. Yes, that's fruit inspection. You got to inspect the fruit.
exactly.
Not be a judgment, but I am going to inspect your fruit, see what it's about.
Listen,
That's
100%.
good. I'm trying to see what else.
Okay.
Um,
And let me throw this in real quick. I think for
okay.
men that are on this Facebook Live, I think there's three things that we as men need to do. Number one, we need safe spaces away from the source of trauma. Right? Like it's so crazy. You cannot heal in the same place that you've been hurt. Right?
It's
I
in my
know,
book.
I know you say that all the time. I had to pull that out. You
You
cannot.
can't you back to the broken place to heal you.
I'm just saying. I know you say that all the time, so I had to bring it up. You cannot heal in the same place that caused you trauma. It's impossible. If that baby mama has caused you trauma, get out now. Right? Like if that situation has caused you trauma, I don't care if it be church, right? Get out now. Like you cannot heal in the same place that caused you trauma. And then let me say this. Learn techniques that help you cope. I don't care if you got to go to the gym every single day at 5 o'clock. Whatever it is that helps you cope, do that thing. And I'm not saying go drink a bottle of liquor. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But healthy techniques that help you cope.
Yes.
If it's running, if it's jogging, if it's hey babe, let's go for a ride down Woodward. Whatever it is that helps you cope, learn healthy techniques. And then connect with your mind and body. At the end of the day, they work together. Whenever I'm stressed in my mind, I start to feel pain in my back. They connect it. And honestly, the body doesn't know the difference between physical hurt and mental hurt. It responds the exact same way. So you've got to be intentional with your mind and body. So when you know when you're in a situation and red flags start coming up, you're like, because I got a headache. I knew it, right? And when you're intentional about your mind and your body, you start learning it and you can pick up on stuff a lot sooner than getting into stuff and getting hurt and then having to heal as a result.
That's good. That's good. I love that. That's good. I am a component of being careful, and I think I said it not last week with when I was on with the women, so I'm going to say it again. One of the things that Holy Spirit showed me was that we come to him last. We
Yeah,
come to him last to get to the healed space.
yeah,
And therefore we're out of rhythm. We keep getting hurt. We keep allowing ourselves to be traumatized. We just keep allowing this. And that if we would just get back in sync with him, the Bible says he that dwelleth, we got to dwell there. We got to
yeah,
stay there. We got to dwell there. And if we would dwell there and allow our hearts to get back in sync to the Holy Spirit, and then our hearts will be in sync and it'll be beaten. It'll be beaten to the rhythm of
yeah,
Jesus and not it won't be our rhythm. Because sometimes we can't breathe because
yeah,
the light be done dealt us stuff that we feel like we literally can't breathe. Like I'm suffocating in this space. And so Holy Spirit is like, if you would allow me if you would lay your head on my bosom and do some, with babies, they do skin to skin when they first born.
yeah.
And it helps them. So you need to do some skin to skin with the Father in the Spirit. I'm laughing, but I'm serious because that helps you to have the rhythm of heaven. And we need the rhythm of heaven. There comes times in our life that nothing else will work, but we need the rhythm of heaven to help us to live, breathe, move, even get up in the morning. So we have to be able to do that. That has to come out. That has to come out. We have to
Yeah.
do that.
And my dad always said it to me growing up. A man who doesn't stand for something will fall for anything. And I think the greatest decision I made was becoming a man of faith. Because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I know he won't let me down. People will fail me, man will fail you, but God will never fail you. And I've learned how to channel fear and insecurity in God. because I wasn't afraid to lay it at his feet. Listen, before I start talking to people, I first start talking to him. I was like,
Right.
Father, it's me. You are my therapist. You are the one that can heal me. You are the one that can set me free from past trauma and anger and depression and suicidal thoughts and low self esteem and what mama did and what daddy did and how this woman broke me and how grief has changed me. You're the one that can take all of these things. And I told God the reason why I talk to you about it is because I know you can do something about it. Like
Right.
I'm not talking to somebody who can't handle what I'm going through. I'm talking to someone who can change it in a heartbeat. And
Just, I mean, and really like that.
yeah, just like that. Like and that you said skin to skin. Man, that is I'm taking that. That's so good. Because it's so important, right? You got to have that skin to skin contact where you're like, Father, I don't care what I'm going through. I don't care what I'm experiencing. It's me and you. Like, and I'm always put my trust in you and my faith in you. Men, we've got to learn how to let God lead in our lives.
Right.
Like in every instance,
Absolutely.
we've got to learn how to let God lead in our lives, lead our marriages, lead our ministries. I think we'd be better men if we just let God lead. I'm
Yeah,
just
and
saying.
that's skin to skin. See, there's something about when you get that close to God, you're gonna smell like him.
That's, who am I offering that?
Your fragrance is gonna be different.
Woo!
You can't
100%.
get that close to him and not
No,
smell like him. When
no.
you lay the baby on your skin and you lay the baby on when you two are laying there, you begin to that aroma of the baby and you, that's gonna mesh, right? And you're gonna smell. You cannot come that close to the presence. You cannot come that close to the Father and not smell like him. You can tell when somebody been fasting and praying for real,
Oh,
real.
for
You be
sure.
like, oh yeah, you look different because they've been
Yeah.
in his face, they've been at his feet, they've been on his bosom, they've been, they've been in his presence and they smell like him and they look like him. Everything about their skin tone looks different. I've
Yeah.
literally done deliverance, and I know this isn't about the man, but I've literally done deliverance. And when deliverance is over, their skin is lighter. Like they were
Yeah.
dark before we
Yeah.
started. And when we're done, their skin is lighter because you cannot get that close to God and you don't change. And there's something about you that don't smell like, you can smell it. You can
Yeah.
smell it. You can
I
smell
think
God.
I think this is the season where God is really calling men back to Him. He's
Yes.
being very intentional with the man in this season because, and I don't think it's by accident that this conversation is about men tonight. I think He wants to speak to the man because at the end of the day, yes, you were born looking like your parents, but you're going to die looking like the decisions that you make. And we as men have to learn how to make better decisions, right? We've got to choose God. We got to choose to be faithful. There's going to be 119 different things coming in your direction in one given
Mhm.
day that are pulling you away from who you're supposed to be. But when you're intentional about where you're trying to go, you won't fall in the traps of the enemy. Because I'm telling you, the enemy will come dressed with a big booty, thighs, legs, hair down, flyer than you could ever imagine, and be the very thing that pulls you down to a place you thought you'd never be. But when you're intentional and you're covered in prayer and you're seeking God and you're talking to God about where you are and where you want to be, guess what? He's going to keep leading you. You were born looking like your parents, but ultimately you'll die looking like the decisions that you make. And so, men, make a decision today to heal. Make a decision to choose God. Make a decision to accept what you can't change and change what you no longer can accept. Because if you don't grow and if you don't get better, then our community doesn't get better. Like men got to step up, man. Now is the time for the man to step up and say, no longer can depression and anxiety and granddaddy demons, right, haunt me and control me. But I got to be better. And let me say, I'm not saying this from a place of perfection because I'm talking to me. Like I'm in the same car as y'all, right? I want to get better every single day. I want to heal every single day. I want to grow every single day. And we've got to create community where men can do just that. Like and not be afraid, right? Don't be afraid to heal. Healing might feel like an earthquake, but I promise you it's the best decision you'll ever make. And I'm gonna leave that there.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. I do believe that this is a great time. I think that we have men get such a bad rap and there's this expectation that they're not going to show up, but I really believe that God is drawing them
Yeah.
back to him, and that they are, I believe that if we give them grace, right? Because we
Yep.
as women, we're more abundance in numbers in the
Yeah.
church, but if we learn to give men grace in that space and
Yeah.
make them feel welcome back. It was something when the prodigal son decided to come home. It was that his brother was mad at him because he had left,
Yeah.
but his father welcomed him back. And I think that we have to get to a position as women that we're welcoming and not holding them in condemnation. We have to learn to give grace, right? Yeah, they messed up. They did this, they did A, they did B, they did X, they did Y, and they did Z. But we have to restore, because
Yeah.
that's what God has called us to do, is to restore. And
Yeah.
we like to hold people in this place of bondage and not restore. And so I really believe, I stand in total agreement with you and believe God that he is pulling his men servants back to the house of God so they can take their rightful place, not just in the house, but in the homes too. Like in the lives of their children, just back to that place of of manhood where they are supposed to be. Women are strong not because, so many women are strong not because we want to be. I
Yeah.
desire to be the weak. I say this all the time. I desire to be the weaker vessel. I'm
Yeah.
strong. This is what I know. I know this because this is what life gave me. Like
Yeah.
but I would love for you, man, to stand up and be a real man. But if you can't, I can't afford to let my life go to waste. I can't
No.
afford for the lives of my children to go to waste because you won't stand up and be a man. So I'm
Yeah.
strong because I have to be, not because I want to be. And so we need, and I believe that God is restoring that. He's restoring children, and he's restoring families, and he's going to
Yeah.
restore that man back to his rightful place where he has that respect and authority, because that's who God has made him, right? We've stripped it away, because no, some of us haven't even stripped it away. They laid it down because they walked away.
Yes. Gosh, that wow, that's so good. And let me say, like, I feel this for the woman. Just because in this season you're called to help him heal doesn't mean you're called to spend the rest of your life with him. You got to know your. I'm just saying, man. You got to know your place in his life. Like, just because you're called to help him heal doesn't mean you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with him. Like, you may just be the one that's supposed to help him heal in this season, and you got to say, okay, cool, I did my job, and you keep it moving.
So what would be, now you done went there, so we got to go there
No,
before we get off. We got to go there. I mean,
yeah,
we done went there. So
yeah,
what would be the distinguisher? Because when you are helping someone heal, and then let's say if you were in a relationship and you're helping someone to heal, how do you know when that season of, because that's a fine line there. That's
yeah.
that there's a fine line, because I've helped you heal. Look, I'm tired of fixing you for the next one. No,
That's real. That's real. But sometimes that's our responsibility, right?
I know.
We can't
I
avoid
know.
it.
I know. But how, so let's speak to the woman, because you made that plea out to the woman, right? So
Yeah,
we, all jokes aside, I'm a joke, whatever. Corny, but I'm gonna joke,
we
right?
have fun.
We're having fun.
Yeah,
But seriously, so what would be the distinguisher? Because when a woman is the distinguishing, what would distinguish a woman that is there to help you heal and a woman that is there to help you with life?
man, whew, you walking real heavy. Like, you walking real heavy tonight. I love it. But I think when it comes to identifying the two areas, right? Like, you know your capacity. Like, we all know
Mm.
our capacity. We all know what we can. Tell the alarm, we getting ready to wrap up. But we all know our capacity. We all know what we can handle. And when you get to a place in your life where you understand that this thing is bigger than the capacity you have to hold, you know that that thing was just for a season. But when your capacity expands concerning the person, that's when you know that person is for a lifetime. You keep trying to hold something you're not meant to hold. And you've got to learn when you've just, I don't have enough capacity for you. I'm sorry. But you're a little too much for me. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's when you know that that person is a season, when you get to a place where your capacity is full. But when your capacity keeps growing with that person, that's when you know, okay, I'm supposed to do life with you, because God keeps molding me to fit who you are. God keeps molding me and expanding me to be able to understand where you're going and where you're growing. Like, I'm growing with you. Like, and that's when you understand, okay, this is something that's long term as opposed to something that's just short term.
Q, you nailed it.
Let's go, baby. Oh, no, I'm joking. Wow.
That was so good.
That was God. That
Look,
was so
I was
God.
trying not to scream while you were.
That was so God. That was so God. I'm telling you.
That was
Come
so
on.
God, but that was so, I'm grateful he used you for that one. That was so, so good. So it's very important that you understand your capacity,
Yes,
because you may not be able to stretch with
exactly.
the person. And I have discovered, because I walk many people through their journeys of healing,
Yeah.
that sometimes the healed you, the person you was with can't handle that.
No.
They can't handle that. They could take you. They had capacity for the broken you, but they don't have the
Yeah.
capacity for the healed you. And so you gotta.
What? You better talk.
So so
Wow.
so now you are in a dilemma, because they literally don't have capacity for that healed version of you,
Wow.
and you desire to stay there, but you can't, because it's gonna always be, there's gonna be a conflict, because you don't even see like you saw before. You don't smell, you don't look, you don't talk. There's your whole perception is different. And so now they're still trying to date and be with that broken person that they don't, you don't even like the same things no more.
Exactly. My taste changed, baby. I'm sorry.
My
I'm not
appetite,
who I
my
used to be.
palate
It's different.
is
Wow.
different. And now you stuck and you're unhappy.
Wow.
So we have to be careful when we that healed version of you. I am in a very look.
Yeah.
I've been saying healed and whole, but I got to throw happy in there. I'm healed, whole, and happy.
Come on. Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't know what happiness look like until you become healed
You know
and
what's
whole.
you know what's so crazy, Mom? I had a prophet call me, and you know how we are with prophets, and they be lying. So I was like, all right, you telling them? But he called me and he said, Q, I heard something concerning you the other day. And I said, what's that, man? He said, I heard that God's about to make you happy for real. And I said, I don't even know what that feels like. You know what I mean? Like what does happy for real even look like? And I was like, you know what? God's about to make me happy for real. Like I'm about to be healed, whole, and happy. Come on. Wow. 100%. 100%.
100%. That's a whole that's a whole nother. I just said this to my girlfriend. I said I've not been happy. I'm in a happy space now,
Yeah.
but I haven't been happy in so long. Like it's been years and years and years and years where I've just been happy. But I realized I could never be happy because I wasn't healed and I wasn't whole. But now that I'm healed and whole, there's space for and there's capacity for happiness. And it feels amazing
I, I
to
just
be
I
in that
just need
space.
I just need about like 5 people to drop healed, whole, and happy in the chat box. I'm just saying, like that.
That
Just take that. Take that.
yeah, take that.
Healed,
Healed, whole, and happy. Drop
100%.
that in the chat. We want to
Wow,
see that.
that's good.
Healed, whole, and happy.
That's good.
Deshaun said something. Let's see. Healed, whole, and happy. We don't see, I didn't see nobody drop it yet.
Come on.
So Deshaun said, a woman that's a healer speaks to her man's soul while the other speaks to his life and physical development. That's good.
That is good.
That is good.
That is good. Come on.
Healed, whole, and happy. Like I
Yeah.
might have to go get me a shirt. I
I'm just
have one.
saying.
I got one to say healed and whole, but I just might have to get one that say healed,
Ye-
whole, and happy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes. I've had joy, but I've lacked the happiness.
Yeah,
Like
for
I've
sure.
laughed so hard to the pit of my stomach, like that kind of happy, like
Yeah.
smile. Yeah. So yeah, I just believe that yeah, that's good.
And
That's good.
I love it. I love it. I wrote it down. I love it.
Any closing remarks?
Yeah, let me say to all of the men, and this isn't just for those that are online because I'm challenging women to also reach out to a man. I mentioned that earlier, right? But to all of the men who are on here, let me say that it's never a bad time to reset, refocus, and realign. Reset, refocus, realign. Reset, refocus, realign, and do it however many times you have to.
Mm-hmm.
because I learned something from a woman. You learn when you listen to Black women, I promise you. But I learned something from a woman. She said, I used to think that life was about passing the baton to someone else. She
Mm-hmm.
said, but once I started healing, I learned that passing the baton was about passing it to the next version of who I'm becoming. She said, so I know I stopped looking to pass it to someone else and realized that I had to start passing it to the new person that I became. And I think there's some new individuals that are about to
Mm-hmm.
rise up in this season. And we've got to learn how to go ahead and let go of the old us and pass the baton to the new us. And I think there's a lot of men who are about to shed some skin in this season. Oh my God, that are about to shed some real skin. You're about to really let go of that divorce. You're about to really let go of that hurt. You're about to really let go of that pain. You're about to really let go of that. And you're about to really be free and happy. Hold on, let me say it right. Healed, whole, and happy for real. And I
Yeah.
think that men, be intentional. Do not allow situational or chronic trauma to continue to live in your future. Reset, realign, and refocus. And to all of the women, I want to say to you and challenge you to start loving a Black man for who he is, but also creating space for him to have conversation about what he's going through. Listen, I appreciate Mama Barb for carving out this platform for us to talk because there's not enough spaces, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
not enough spaces in the world for us. And to have a platform like this where we can come and talk and share and dive into conversation, this is where the healing begins. This is where it starts. So get in rooms like this. If you don't got her book, go get it. If you got it already, buy it for somebody else. Just give it to them. Because I'm telling you, we need to start fostering a community of healing. And I promise you, that's when we'll really start seeing change lives and we'll really start seeing growth.
That's good. That's good. I don't have a closing remark after that.
Come on, you got some.
I'm like, I was thinking, what was I gonna say? He done took the women. No, it is my desires. Was one of the things that I want. I really pray that God begins to prick the hearts of men,
Yeah,
that they can put their shame, their guilt, their pride, their egos aside, and that they begin to come together and create spaces that they can be authentic in, that they can
yeah,
literally heal together in, that where there's no shame in it, right? And that we're all here for the same purpose, because there are many men who are already healed,
oh, for sure.
but some of them don't even like to share their story for lack of judgment. They don't want people to judge them, right?
Yeah,
If I tell you, to admit that I had an affair on my wife and I destroyed my family and I tore down my whatever, I tore
exactly.
down. They don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to
Mhm.
have that I was an alcoholic and I lost, the best job that I ever had, and I took the food money out of my children's mouths, and they don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
so I just hope that this starts a just a season and a time where men can find this space, because you're needed. So I say to the man, you're needed. We need you, and we not only do we need you, we want you. We want you to rise up. See, it's one thing to be needed, but it's another thing to be wanted. I love everybody because I have to, but I don't like everybody.
yeah,
But I love because God commands me that, right? So I can love
yeah,
you and I don't have to be with you and I don't have to be around you because I don't like how you act and I don't like how you treat. But I want to say to the man, we like you, we love you, we need you, and we want you. And so it is our heart's desire that you make space, because it has to come from you. You make space for God to begin to go in and really allow healing to come into you, allow healing, allow your brothers, find your tribes,
yeah,
allow the woman to heal you. She's not against you. Sometimes you think we're against you. Be vulnerable, open
yeah,
up, and you would be amazed at just how much she truly wants to help you
yeah.
succeed. Don't fight it. Don't fight against her. She
Yeah.
really wants you to win, and she doesn't have to want you. I don't have to be dating you to want you to win.
Come on, I'm just saying that. That's good.
Look, you ain't got to be my man for me to want you to win.
No.
Let's be clear. And so
Yep.
she don't have to be your woman to want you to win and to help you heal. She don't
No.
have to. We're not saying that it has to be that. We're saying if you have that in your life, don't push that away.
Exactly.
Allow that person to nurture what is necessary, but at the same time, there's people out there that want you to win. There's more that want you to win than want you to fail. Just go find them. So we
Nurture.
thank you. Go
You
ahead. You
said
got something else?
you said nurture where it's necessary.
Yes.
Woo! That's so good. And let me tell you, if you need to connect with another black man who's on a healing journey as well, just consider me a friend of you. So reach out to me, connect with me, and let's talk. I'm open to it for sure.
Yeah. And y'all know I always tell you how to connect. How can they connect with you, Q?
Yeah, you can go to my website, www.qmorgan.com. You can reach out to me on all social media platforms at Q Morgan. Definitely, if you get a chance, go check out my podcast, Modern Healing, and I'm sure you'll find some helpful hints in the conversations as well.
Please go reach out to Q. Q. I didn't have Q on accident. I said I need Q on because I have watched a man heal before my eyes, and it was Q. And
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
and because I've watched him, I know that it's not fake, it's not phony. I've seen him cry. I've seen him lay it out there. We've had conversations.
Yep.
So I am fully aware, and I have watched him blossom, and it has been amazing. And so I wanted him here because I knew he would be transparent, he would be vulnerable, and he'd be willing, right? So
Yeah.
I thank you, Q, for just being willing and able. Please reach out to him. Again, I'm Barbara Bankston. I do have a book. It's called Unmasking: A Journey to Wholeness. Reach out to me. I promise you, it's been blessing men. I've had men tell me they've been cried through it. I've had men say you definitely walked through a place of healing. I've had more men call me on this book. Look, we need to talk, girl. I've had more men reach out to me and say that, and really expose themselves to me in private than probably I have had women, right? But I've had a lot of men come to me and really expose their hearts. So I know that this is the will of God. I'm with you, Q. This is what God wants. He wants his manservant healed because they have come. And
Yeah.
so reach out to me. Y'all know how to reach me. Inbox me, Barbara Bankson. Email me, barbara.a.bankston@gmail.com. However, there's no excuses. If you got my number, call me. So there's no excuses because my number's out there. Some people got it. But we thank you for coming on tonight. If you did not share this broadcast, please share it. We want this to get into the hands of men so we could start the conversation that will provoke them to that place of healing so that they can be healed, whole, and happy. Have an amazing, amazing, amazing evening.
See y'all later.
See you later.